Hey folks, Reloading Bench once again. So what you're looking at now is what I would call more of your traditional single stage press. Whether that's an O frame or a C frame, depending on who it's made by and how it's being referred to, or even an I frame. There's no shortage of interesting single stage presses by lots and lots of manufacturers. And one of the things I wanted to mention is, yes, I'm a Lee fan, and I've got a number of different Lee presses as well as Hornady. But I'm not endorsing one press over another. This is what's worked for me and what I like. And you're going to find when you do your research and you go down the path of listing your pros and cons on why you would lean more or less towards one reloading press over another to put on your bench. That's when you'll discover what works for you. So I'm not endorsing any product from a purchase perspective. I'm just highlighting some of the things that I've come across in my reloading path and journey, and why something works for me specifically or why it doesn't work. As there are reasons why I've looked at presses in the past. And this is actually the press. This is, strangely enough, my first single stage O-frame press. And the reason I got this is, as you've seen from maybe some of the previous videos, is for the 416 Barrett case, the 416 Barrett project, because of the casing not being able to fit in my other presses. So this is a larger single stage press, and some of the advantages over single stage is there's absolutely no movement of the die once it's actually set in here. So other presses, like a turret or some turrets, my Lee turret, will have some variation and deviation from being locked in. You'll have a consistent deviation from what you would have over a single stage. So if I was loading match grade ammunition, I probably would not use my Lee turret. I would probably lean towards a single stage that has much less variance in how things move. But some of the things that drew me to the Lee, from my personal perspective, let me adjust the camera a little bit, was the pass-through RAM. I like the fact that all of my primers, my spent primers, are in a tube, or I can direct the tube into the trash or whatever. I'm not as satisfied with how some of the other vendors, even Lee, in how they get rid of the primers. Having little plastic containers off to the side, or little metal things redirecting the primers as they are decapped. Not a fan. So I happen to like the primer through the RAM option, and that was one of the things that drew me to Lee for my original reloading choices, as well as the 416 Barrett. Big casing like a 50 BMG. This is a heavy-duty press. Big enough and heavy duty enough for anything that I would need it for, but yet small and simple and elegant. So to me it was a great trade-off. Once again, price played in there. I could buy a $300 single stage press from different manufacturers, or I could buy a $75 press from different manufacturers. So I think depending on what you're trying to do, that's how you'll ultimately decide on what press. For example, this doesn't have the breech lock option. You can put them in, but they won't be able to snap in. So again, and Lee does make a breech lock O-press. So different press options for your different reloading options. But 5 years after, actually 6, I started in 2010, so 6 years after getting into reloading, I finally got a single stage press. And I'll cover what I started with in one of the next videos. But I like the press. It's suited me well. for what we're doing so far with the 416 Barrett project, and we'll see how it continues to perform. But in terms of simplicity, ease of use, quick setup, you can't beat a single stage press. And when I get into talking about my turret, I'll talk about the single stage versus progressive in terms of speed and output. But the downside of a single stage is you can only perform one single option repetitively when you have a piece of a die in here and a piece of brass. So that may be resizing and decapping. You're going to do that X number of times. Then you're going to swap the die out and put something else in, whether that's a charging die to bell the brass, say in 45 auto, or maybe it's to seat, to crimp. I also like Lee's primer configuration with the primer arms, a small and large primer arm being locked in with the shell holder and operating quite elegantly, as opposed to, say, having to have a primer tube by somebody else and then having to manually load that primer tube. So Lee has done an interesting job with design, and I'm a fan. So don't have anything bad to say, as I don't with other reloading manufacturers. But the single stage offers both pros and cons. Great for match, large volume for plinking. Maybe not the best way to go, but those are other options we'll talk about, say, in the next set of videos.